So there's this idea that's been popping up. There's a recent comedian that I watched on Netflix. His first name is Harry on Netflix. He's an Indian comedian. I've seen it, I think, in the New York Times or something. They had a comic strip, and they were saying this. They were basically comparing, terrorists, like Muslim terrorists, comparing them to white men in America who go into places and shoot up the place with guns. And basically saying that your skin color ultimately determines what kind of terrorist you are. Okay, so this is not my original idea. This is me commentating on people already acknowledging it. And I think we all kind of knew it, but now we're seeing it happen. So here's the basic concept, okay? And I've talked about recently the Fitzpatrick scale as far as determining your skin tone. I made a video about that recently. And so it's almost like this. Like it's like a scale of about 5. So for me, if I put myself somewhere around the middle, around 3, having more of a Mediterranean skin color, if you start getting much darker than me, then it turns into, instead of crazy white man with a gun who goes in a building and shoots people, now it becomes I'm a terrorist, probably Muslim, and I've got bombs and I'm gonna blow stuff up. I'm an extreme terrorist that way. So it becomes that your skin color predicts what kind of terrorist you are. Because see, here's the thing. As an American, I recognize the fact that while our military is all across the world, policing the world, preventing war, whatever's going on, constantly surveilling the world, okay, to try to stop all these guys blowing up stuff, terrorism, that we're fighting because of 9/11 or whatever's going on. Okay, while all that's going on, I recognize on a regular, predictable basis here in America, white men are going places with guns and shooting people. Now, there are different motivations for that. And we could say, well, these white men in America who are shooting places up, they're crazy, they're insane, they're bipolar, they're depressed, whatever they are, they're schizophrenic, whatever they are, they're highly medicated, and maybe even the medication itself makes it even worse to where they would go into a place and start shooting people. Okay? And we could say that's crazy. We could even say, well, the terrorists who are Muslim actually aren't crazy. I've even read articles where my understanding is a lot of the Muslim terrorists that are doing this across the world, it comes from a place of poverty. That's where it's coming from, that actually their economic status had a lot to do with them ending up in that situation. So I think that's interesting too, going back to the concept of crazy white man with a gun shooting places up. Well, the thing is, look at their economic background. Typically, they're middle class, actually. They're not coming from a place of poverty. So you've got middle-class white men that are crazy, that take guns and shoot people in America. And then, at the same time, across the world, you've got people who are seen as extreme Muslim terrorists who aren't crazy, but often come from a place of poverty. So I think it's interesting to look at the demographics there. And ultimately, again, what inspired this is, ultimately, skin color sort of predicts terrorism in a way, like what kind of terrorist it would be, And I think that is interesting. We're not really seeing people with dark skin color in America going into places with guns and shooting people up. We're not, right? That's not the norm. The stereotype is the crazy white man with a gun, right? And the same thing across the world with people who have bombs and have this extreme terrorism on that, the kind of terrorism that the U.S. military is trying to fight against, right? But you're not seeing people who are typically white. Right? I'm not crazy to say this. And again, I can't even take credit for being the person who made this up. People are already saying this, and I'm already acknowledging this. And I see the irony. I want to close with this thought. I see the irony that the U.S. military is constantly fighting terrorism across the world, when in our own country, we've got people who are shooting up places. And it sort of seems like we've got terrorism going on in our own. And it's like, seriously, can we make it a few months without a new headline about someone who shot somebody up in America? So it's like, okay, what's going to happen this month? Is it going to happen in America with a crazy white man with a gun, or is it going to happen somewhere else in some other part of the world where there's a bomb that blows up in a building? It's like, it's becoming so predictable. But it's also, we can predict this with skin color, and I think that is something that is interesting. I think, and again, it goes back to demographically, even whether there's issues of poverty there or not, or whether it's someone who's middle class and for whatever reason they were on medication, they were crazy, they were insane, or whatever. This is interesting to me. So I'm wondering if it's interesting to you. Is this something we want to have a conversation about and explore more? I think it's very interesting, but who knows? Maybe only 23 people watch this video and no one will even care. But for anyone who does care, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it and think about it. And if nothing else, the irony that the U.S. military fights terrorism across the world, policing the world, and yet we've got terrorism in our own country, and it's linked back to crazy white men with guns. I think that's interesting. What do you think? Comments, do it.